in last lecture, we created new function in a Faucet contract called receive. It's a special function in which we can receive money through calling the transaction. Okay, so when we will call the transaction now, we'll specify the address of the transaction will be our contract. We can receive some Ether and we can update the balance of Faucet. All right, guys, so let's start. Let's start here in a Faucet contract .sol. And first, I'll write here a couple of comments for you. I forgot in the last lecture about the receive function. So this is a special function. Okay, this function is triggered in a contract if you make a transaction. So it's called when you make a transaction. When you make a transaction, tx for a transaction that doesn't specify any function name. Okay, so it's called when you make a transaction that doesn't specify function name to call, function name to call. Okay, now about external. So external functions are part of the contract interface, are part of the contract interface. And what does this basically mean? So which means they can be called from other contracts and via transactions. They can be called via contracts and other transactions. Okay, so external functions are part of the contract interface, which means they can be called contracts and other transactions, TXX. Okay, so here we have a receive function, which is external, so we can call it via transaction, and it's also payable. So when we will make a transaction, we can specify their value properly, which can provide Ether in the transaction. Okay, now guys, let's, we don't need to even save it. There's just a comment, so it will be running anyway. But let's save it and let's try to make a transaction to our contract. Okay, let's go to terminal. Make sure you are in the correct folder. I will clear the screen here and let's run here Truffle console. Okay, when you will run Truffle console, as I mentioned, you have access to a couple of functionalities. You have already some variables in the context and the functions in the context. You have here Web3 and so on. And also what you have here, you have accounts. Okay, when you call here accounts, is an array of all of the accounts you can also see in a Ganache. Okay, so you can compare it in a Ganache. When you go with accounts, it's exactly the same accounts you have available here. Okay, so you have this array available in the context. And now I would like to make a transactions through Web3. How can I do it? First of all, if you don't know something, you can just Google for it. So let's search here for Web3 send transaction, and you will immediately find here Web3 ETH. Web3 ETH, let's go down here, or let's search here for send transaction, and here it is. So when I want to send a transaction to the network, I need to call here web3.eth.send transaction, and I need to provide transaction object. Transaction object contains these parameters here. We need to provide here from, all right, to. So from is an address from which we are making transaction. To is the address where we are making a transaction, and the value is the value of Ether we are sending in a transaction, and it's in a way. Okay, so it's in this denominator of a way. You not specify Ether, but you will specify way here. Also, gas price, that you don't need to specify this. It's optional. All right, so we need to specify these three values here: from, to, and the value. Okay, we can if we are not sure how much value we want to send, you can also find here calculator. So let's say way to ETH. And here is an ETH converter, and let's say we will be sending 10 Ether. Okay, and here is a value in a way. Okay, so let's do it. Let's go to our terminals back and let's send here this transaction. So what was there? Web3.eth.send transaction. Normal brackets, curly brackets, and now we need to specify here from. This will be this account here. The first one will be sending it from the first account. So let's specify here accounts at index 0. Of course, we could specify here row value of the address, but we can also just access array on the first item, which will get me this address. To will be address of our contract. So we can just simply go to Ganache, we can go to contracts, we can click on the faucet, and we can get the address here. So let's copy this address here. Okay, and let's paste it here. Perfect. Now comma. Okay, make sure their items are ordered on order. That actually doesn't matter, but make sure you have a commas after each statement here. Okay, so from account 0, comma 2. Here is the address 2. Okay, and after this comma, and now 2, and now value. Okay, so value. And value, I'll write here double quotes, and the value of Ether in a way. So let's get here, and the value here will be 10 Ether will be sending. I'll paste it here. Okay, and guys, that's basically it. Now just press enter, and you should send a transaction, but I see here Web3 ETH is not a function. I have a typo in a transaction word. Okay, so send transaction, I have here additional A, so transaction like this, and I'll press enter now, and you can see the transaction has been sent, and some parameters was created was generated, so transaction hash, transaction index, block hash, block number in which block the transaction was mined, from to gas use, so how much gas we have used, and so on. Okay, so now we can go to Ganache. We can go to transactions, and this transaction should be here. Up, and okay, we have found some bug on the Ganache. Okay, so I cannot click here on transaction for some reason. It will resolve into issue, but not click at this, but just simply see here that we have been sending this transaction from addresses, our first account. The value is this 10 Ether, and when you will check blocks, you can see the block 9, and in the block 9 this transaction was mined in. That is the transaction here. And when you will go to your contracts now, and you will click on the faucet here, you will see now your balance has 10 Ether. It's not a 0 any longer, but we have sent the value of 10 Ether, so we have 10 Ether here. And when we will go to accounts, our first user from which we have been sending transaction, has a 10 Ether less. Okay, so we have a 89 before we had a 99. So this way we can send Ether and receive Ether when we are making transactions. Okay, when you're making transactions from account to account, of course, it works same. It works exactly the same. Here, just simply instead of specifying here of your contract address, you will specify your account address, and that's basically it. Okay, guys, so that should be it for now. Let's continue in the next lecture. Cheers.